guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make melodic like Yotto. So as usual, you can get the project file and samples from this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because they'll be available shortly. Anyway, let's get started. This is a loop you heard in the intro. We're at 122 BPM, and the first sound we have here is this lead, which sounds like this. So I'll show you the notes for this one first. It's pretty simple. It's just playing this kind of arp in F sharp minor. That's the key word, and so you can see it's just going F sharp, the root note, C sharp, the fifth, and then A, the minor third, and then it just comes up here, and then just has those two notes. And then what this is doing is it's creating this kind of like weird rhythm where it's like the pattern starts on this F sharp, but then after the first time it goes and just kind of repeats these notes. And then after 2 bars comes back to that. So, you know, just kind of a cool way to play around with the rhythm and make it a little bit more interesting with something really simple like this. Like, this is literally only 5 notes. Excuse me, 4 notes. Anyway, yeah, that was how I made the MIDI. Here's the sound for this one. So I made this using Operator. What it is it's the square wave. I've got a little bit of FM from the sine wave here. If I turn off this filter, you can hear it more. There's just the square wave, and there's with the FM. So, you know, just kind of taking the square wavy sound and making it a little bit more interesting and more kind of textured. I've got that going through a low pass filter, which has an envelope on it. That's how you get that kind of pluck. And then the last thing I have inside of Operator here is this LFO. And so the LFO, it's just on the pitch, and it's giving it like a vibrato kind of effect. If I turn off the filter, you can hear it more. It's basically doing that, but just not a lot of it. So it's a really good way to kind of give it a bit of a more interesting sound. If I turn this off, and then back on again, you can hear, yeah, it's really nice. It just kind of makes it like, I don't know, it just gives it more vibe, and more of that kind of like analog feel like you hear in a lot of Yotto's tracks. After that, I've got 2 delays, so you can see I've got this simple delay here doing 16th notes, and then I've got this echo doing quarter notes, so just kind of stacking them. There's a lot of space between the notes in this sound, so it's nice to kind of have like a lot of delay like that. I've also got this reverb here. You can see I'm not doing a whole lot with that. The K time's pretty short, and the dry wet is pretty small. It's just kind of adding a bit of reverb on top of things, and then we have a compressor side chaining into the kick, and then just an EQ8 cutting out the line. So that is the first layer of the lead. The second layer is this one, which sounds like this. It's just like this bell sound. So you can hear this is playing the same MIDI as that other one, and this is just kind of playing together with that. You can hear it adds a lot of kind of like a more human and like organic feel because it is a more organic sound. But yeah, so this is just like a little bell sample. I'll show you the original. There's the original sample. I just have this little thing here. You can see it has like a bit of an attack, so I just kind of drag that over. But yeah, then on that, for effects, the first thing I have here is a simple delay, which is set like this. You can see I've got it doing 8th notes, and the dry wet is there, so it's not super wet, but kind of similar to that lead. You know, there's a lot of space between the notes, so there's a lot of room to do stuff like this. After that, I've got a bit of reverb, and then just the compressor side chaining into the kick, and the EQ8 cutting out the low end. So yeah, that is the lead. Like I said, it's those 2 layers. The next thing we have here is this pluck, which sounds like this. So what this is playing is it's playing just a chord progression. This is the same basic pattern that the bass is playing. You can see the bass is just playing the root notes, and I'll talk about that more when I actually get to that. But yeah, so this is just kind of following with the bass, and what's happening is this is expanding on what that's doing by adding these thirds. So basically, all of these chords are dyads, meaning chords with 2 notes, and all they are is the root note down there, and then the third, whether it's major or minor, up here. And so this is kind of like, it's a really popular thing you hear in a lot of Yotto's music, as well as like a ton of other melodic house. A good example of this in Yotto's tracks would be something like Odd One Out, like that kind of pluck. And yeah, so it's just playing these 2 notes, like I said, just the chords, just the root note, and then the third, whether it's major or minor. And yeah, yeah, so then for the sound on this one, I made this using operator. You can see we've got a square wave, and then I've got a little bit of white noise in there. I've got the FM algorithm set to this one, so they're just all playing side by side, and we're not getting any FM. But yeah, so just a little bit of square wave with some white noise. Then I've got that going into a low pass filter. That's how you get the pluck. And yeah, then after that I've got the simple delay doing eighth notes. I keep wanting to say half notes since it says 2. But yeah, eighth notes. You can hear that works really well with the groove there. And then I've just got a bit of reverb. You can see not a whole lot. The dry wet is down to 18%. You can hear it's the subtle reverb that really makes a difference with this. After that, I've got this compressor side chaining into the kick, and then an EQ8 cutting out the low end. And that's really it for the pluck. It's really not that difficult. It's just kind of a matter of getting like a nice synth sound and then just letting it breathe and using sort of the spacey effects to kind of bring it to life a little bit more. So then after that, I've got this kick/bass group, which I'll show you the individual sounds, and then I'll show you what's on the group. So the first sound inside of here is the bass, which sounds like this. So this is playing the chord progression. You can see it's playing, like I said, the root notes from the chords that the pluck was playing. And yeah, this is the chord progression. It's just F sharp, A, B, E, and then B, and then another A up there. It's pretty simple, but it's just kind of following this pattern where you can hear it's really bouncy, and it plays really well off of all the drums. And that's really where a lot of the groove in this track is happening. So, yeah, so for the sound on this one, I made it using operator. What we've got is a square wave, and then I've got a little bit of FM on that from a sine wave, so very similar to that lead where I did a similar thing. Here's what it sounds like without the filter, so you can kind of hear. There's just the square wave, and then with the sine wave FM. So you can hear it's subtle, but it just adds a little bit of a different texture to it. So then I got the low pass on there, which is just doing, it's just got a bit of an envelope, so that's what's giving it the pluck. And yeah, then after that, I have those things in the operator going into the saturator here, which you can see is set like this. I've got the drive up, and I've got the bass frequency up. And it's just really giving this a lot of power and warmth. After that, I've got this echo, which is set to eighth notes. And with this echo, the one thing I want to talk about is using delay on your bass kind of like the right way. So you can hear having this echo here really sounds good. Like, I really like that extra bit of sound that it's adding. And I don't think it's messing up the track in any way or like getting too messy. And the key to this is filtering your echoes or filtering your delays. So you can see on this echo here, I've got the high pass on this filter set to almost 600 hertz. So it's very high pass. So we're just getting that high end in there. And this is important because if I turn that off, you can hear it gets really messy because we're getting all that low end in there. And you really don't want low end to have a lot of like delay or any kind of spacey effect like that. So yeah, definitely a really important thing because this can sound really good. You just need to know how to kind of control it and make it fit into your track. I also don't have a whole lot of dry wet on there. You can see it's only at 17%. So yeah, then after that, I've just got a compressor, side chaining into the kick, and then an EQ8 where I'm cutting out around like 100 hertz, like kind of around 100 hertz and then a little bit above it and a little bit below it. And this is just to make room for the kick because if you listen to it without this, they kind of bleed a lot. And yeah, so it's just a good way to kind of retain that nice low end without having it get in the way of the kick. So the next thing we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. And this is pretty simple. It's just like a punchy, kind of like short kick. There's the original sample. You can hear, yeah, it's just a matter of getting something that's really tight and punchy like this that will fit into the mix and won't take up too much space. So then for effects on that, all I've got is just this drum bus. You can see I've just got a little bit of drive. I've got the crunch up a little bit, and then I've got the boom to kind of give it more low end, because you can hear that doesn't really have that like thick low end that this has. So that's where that's coming from, is from that boom. Then on the group, I've got a bit of processing, and I'll talk about the reason for all of this. So the reason why you want to put your kick and your bass together is because those two things are really like the foundation of your track. Like, I talk about this a lot, but it's very important. Like, the kick and the bass, the low end is where all the groove and like really the power and that kind of stuff is coming from in these kind of tracks. And so by putting the kick and the bass together and compressing them a little bit and saturating them a little bit, you kind of get like a more together sound. If I turn this off, You can hear these two sound like the bass is a little too loud in some areas, the kick is a little too loud in some areas. It's just kind of messy, but when we add these things, they sound really tight. And it really makes a huge difference for the foundation of your track. So, for the effects on here, the first thing I have is this compressor. So here's with nothing. And then with the compressor. So you can hear this compressor really helps to sort of bring out just kind of the best of both. Like, it's flattening it out a little bit, and yeah, it really helps to give them like an equal space in the mix, I feel like. So basically the key with this is just to turn the threshold down a little bit. You can see I'm really not doing a whole lot there, but it's just kind of flattening out those peaks a little bit and helping to bring anything that might be a little bit too loud down. I've also got the attack up a little bit so it doesn't mess up the transients. And yeah, then after that I have the saturator, which sounds like this. So you can hear that's just kind of like some final glue at the end there to kind of beef everything up and just give it a bit more kind of like power. So the next thing I have here is this percussion group, and I'll show you the individual sounds and then I will show you what's on the group. So the first thing that I have here are these hi-hats, which sound like this. So what these are basically the shaker, and then this main hi-hat, and then this one, which you can hear is kind of playing off of them. So it's sort of like three things. Like we have the main 16th note thing, which is actually a shaker, which I've just kind of taken and shortened a little bit. You can say that's playing 16th notes. And then I've got the upbeat one, like this one, which is playing on the upbeats, which is a little bit louder than this one. And then we just have this one, which is kind of accentuating like a few 16th notes in there. So yeah, pretty simple. It's just kind of a matter of like doing it this way. I feel like since I learned how to do my hi-hats this way, I feel like I can never go back to using top loops. Like, it can be tempting to use loops, but it feels very good, and it definitely sounds a lot better when you just kind of take your time and get the different layers of hi-hats like this. So then the last thing inside of this group, before I show you what's on the group, is the clap, which sounds like this. And yeah, really not a whole lot to this. I will say, like, for Yotto's style, and for a lot of music in this style, like this sort of more melodic house, it's just about getting these kind of tighter, kind of just very strong but short sort of claps, or even like a rim shot or something. So then I've got a bit of processing on the group. So here's without anything. And then with it, so you can hear very similar to the kick and bass bus. It really helps to put all these together. And again, like, we're really making it all sound like it's in kind of the same world and just putting it all under the same sonic umbrella. So the first effect we have here is this drum bus, and what I'm doing with this is mostly just adding like that kind of drive and like saturation to these that you hear. It makes them sound a lot more warm. So it's got the drive up a bit, and then the crunch is up a little bit, and that's really it for the drum bus. Like I said, it's really simple, just kind of throw it on there, and it helps to kind of make everything sound a bit more warm. After that, I've just got an EQ8, cutting out the long, because there was kind of a lot in these samples. And yeah, really simple there. Again, just kind of cutting out the lawn. So that is the percussion group. And then the last thing that we have here is this pad, which sounds like this. So this is kind of like the background sort of thing. It's helping to really fill out the mix. If I play it without this, you can hear it's got a lot going on, but it doesn't quite have that like warm synth in the background. So this is just adding this, and you could even maybe arrange this like a little bit differently too. Like maybe you could have a part where it's like this with no pad, and then like the pluck turns off, and then the pad comes in. You know, stuff like that, but this is sort of playing around with it. But yeah, so that's what this is doing. It's kind of helping to fill out the mix a bit more. So the notes on this one are just this. You can see it's just playing these little dyads, and these are just the first note in, or the first chord in the chord progression, and then I guess this one that hits on the three. Like, you can see if I play this, or if I show you this with the MIDI from the pluck, you'll see. Yeah, so it's just playing that first chord there, and then it's playing the second to last chord, I guess. So really pretty simple, just kind of following the chord progression, but still like sort of droning on a few different notes there. And then for the sound on this one, I made it using analog. So what we got is just one saw wave. It's going into a low pass filter. Low pass is set like this. I've got the resonance up. You can say the frequency there, and then I've got this LFO one just kind of moving that filter frequency. So this just helps to kind of bring it to life. You can hear it's moving throughout the course of the track, and it makes it just a bit more interesting than if it was just not moving at all. After that, I've got a little bit of vibrato. You can see just kind of at 22%, helping to give it more kind of vibe, no pun intended. And then I've got a bit of unison as well to kind of beef it up a bit more. And yeah, then after that, we just got a bit of reverb to give it some space, and then a compressor side chaining into the cake, and then EQ8 cutting out the low end. Again, really not too crazy here, just kind of a nice background layer. But yeah, so that is pretty much it for this one. Like I said, I've got a bunch of requests for this one, so I wanted to make it. I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, so that's it for today, guys. Make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments, and make sure to like this video, as well as subscribe. Once again, you can get the project file and the samples from this video in the description, so make sure to check that out. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.